The Dallas Stars have one of the brightest futures in the NHL despite the lack of high draft picks in recent years. Today, we take a look at the top 5 players 22 years old or younger in the Stars pipeline.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The Athletic has been posting their NHL Pipeline Rankings, and the Dallas Stars come in at number 18. And this takes into account players in the NHL and within the organization 22 years of age or younger. So I'm going to share with you the top 5 players within the Dallas Stars pipeline today. Should be a jam-packed Wednesday episode for you today. The NHL Network is actually going to release their top 20 defensemen in the NHL right now tomorrow. So we're going to try to guess where Miro Heiskanen comes in on that list. Plus, another team within the NHL has joined the Stars on Victory Plus. Stick around for that a bit later on as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. So the Dallas Stars come in at number 18 in the NHL Pipeline Rankings. The Athletic is posting these every single day from now on to the end of the week, and they're doing them in a groups of 8. So the Stars come in at number 18, but they say some interesting things about some Stars prospects that I wanted to jump into as well. By the way, player eligibility on these lists, it's all skaters who are 22 years old or younger as of September 15th, regardless of how many NHL games they've played, are eligible. Player heights and weights are taken from the NHL. And they also give some tool grades as well, which I thought was really interesting. So no surprise here, Wyatt Johnston comes in at number 1 on the Dallas Stars player rankings. A center who, of course, is 6'2", 184 pounds, had a huge season, a breakout year, scoring over 30 goals last season. By the way, in addition, a key addition they make note of is Emil Hemming, and then the key graduate, of course, is Thomas Harley. The Stars were actually graded 17th last year in the pipeline rankings, so they drop a spot here. And their 2024 NHL draft grade was a C-. But anyways, Wyatt Johnston comes in at number 1. Looks like he's going to make a big step up as well. He'll get to play on the top line with Roope Hintz, Jason Robertson. He could stay with Jamie Benn. We'll see how that all plays out through training camp, but had a really good season. They give his tier NHL All-Star, and I think he can be even higher than that. I'm on the record of saying Wyatt Johnston is a superstar. I think he can get to that elite level. I will say it's going to be tough because his position group is really crowded with the McKinnons and the McDavids of the world, the Austin Matthews. Can he join that conversation? It's a bit too early to say that, but I think he can be a top 10 player in the NHL. I think that can be his ceiling. Maybe I'm a bit bullish on him, but he's had an incredible start to his young career. We'll see how it all plays out here in the next season. So they give his skating a below NHL average, and I want to say back in maybe February or January, we took a look at some rankings from the Athletic. Can't quite remember what exactly it was, but they listed his skating ability below NHL average as well. And I just don't see it. The eye test doesn't give me that. I think he's an above average skater. Maybe not speed-wise, but in terms of getting through defenders and finding open space for himself and others, I think he's an extremely good skater. If you're talking about straight line speed, I can understand that. But how many times did I see last year Johnston just walk through like multiple defenders and score a goal? Like a handful of times, practically a dozen. So I don't quite understand the below average there, but I digress. His puck skills are high end. Hockey sense, compete, and shot are all above NHL average. The analysis here says Johnston continues to get better year after year and developed into one of the leading players on a top NHL team this season in Dallas. He was one of the best players in the postseason before they were eliminated, a player with outstanding skill and vision. He makes so many tough plays with the puck on his stick through defenders. Right there. There it is. He even gives credit to his ability to get through defenders. Anyways, his one-on-one play has the ability to break shifts open. He's a competitive player who doesn't shy away from taking pucks to the high traffic areas and wins a lot of puck battles in tough areas. His only downside is a lack of separation gear, but he competes hard enough to compensate for that. Alrighty, so they do give him a bit of a negative on separation gear, which I can live with a bit, but I don't know if that's below NHL average, especially after what we saw from him last season. His old buddy Logan Stankoven comes in right behind him at number 2. His tier is top of the lineup player. They give him an above NHL average for skating, puck skills, hockey sense, and compete. I think his compete is high end. His shot is given high end here. And Stankoven, of course, came in at the end of last season, I guess the back half of February, and then played the remaining 30-odd games or so, and of course made a huge impact on the score sheet in the regular season. Not quite so much here in the postseason, but he makes up for that in a lot of other ways by his compete, his forechecking ability. Pete DeBoer can play him in any situation. I think he's going to get an uptick in power play time, which will be a good thing for him and the Stars with the departure of Joe Pavelski. He'll get some more minutes there. He can work in on the penalty kill and just had a really, really nice season. Says he was arguably the best player in the AHL before Dallas called up. I don't think there was much of an argument there. He then became a notable part of the Stars lineup and stood out in his NHL playoff debut. It says he's small, but everything else about his game is a major positive. Great skater, competes hard, brings a ton of energy. He projects as a legit top line winger. I'm really, really keen on next season for Stankoven because are we going to get an elevation of his game, or is what we saw last year sort of what we can expect on a consistent basis? And that's not saying it's a bad thing, but is there another level to Stankoven because he is a smaller player? Sometimes you can only do so much in a lot of ways at that frame, but boy, he's not afraid to stick his nose into dirty areas. Sometimes he's like a pinball getting bounced around, but you have to love what you saw out of him in that limited sample size, a full offseason, and already a taste of the NHL in his mouth heading into this next year. I think can do wonders for him and possibly some confidence. Didn't look like he was losing any confidence last season, which is a good thing. I think the Stars did the right thing, letting him develop, play about more than half a season in the AHL. He dominated that level, and he got rewarded with a call-up and instantly made an impact. And frankly, you could say he was part of the unsung heroes, maybe a player that saved the Stars season, and they were going to be fine without him, but Stars are really struggling at that time in February when he got called in. And he did an excellent job of just providing some juice, right? Some energy, which teams need every so often, especially a very veteran team like the Stars were last year, even though they're going to be a lot younger heading in to the season with the departure of a 40-year-old in Joe Pavelski. But teams will need that throughout the season. At number 3, we'll move on. Lian Bichel, the big 6'6" defenseman. They have him as a middle of the lineup player. He was drafted, of course, 18th overall in 2022. They give him NHL average for skating and puck skills. His hockey sense is below NHL average, and compete is above. Hockey sense makes a lot of sense because it's going to take him a while to adjust to the North American style of game. It looks like he's going to start in the AHL, but we never know how training camp is going to shape out. Possibly some injuries, and maybe you need Lian Bichel to be in your lineup on day one, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I've said this a couple of times throughout the summer. The best thing for the Dallas Stars heading into next season is maybe in November or December, Bichel is dominating in the AHL, and it's apparent that he needs to be brought up, and he can be a productive player on the Stars back end. And possibly that's the maybe trade deadline acquisition for the Stars. They probably still need to go out and get somebody that can contribute, but that makes you feel a lot better about your back end if Bichel is contributing. He has another left shot, so you have to find him some space, but it says here he played well between AHL and the Swedish Hockey League last season. He's big, mean, mobile defenseman, plays hard, and projects to make a lot of NHL stops. The questions on him will come down to puck play. He has some skill, but it's inconsistent, and I don't think he sees the ice very well. He looks like a career NHL defenseman, and his first pass is consistent. He can be a solid top 4 type. And frankly, that's what the Stars need him to be. He was drafted that way. He needs to be a career NHL defenseman. And I think you can sort of compare this to, let's say, Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter for the Texas Rangers. 2 arms that, frankly, the Rangers need to pan out. Those are 2 guys you spend high end capital on. And Bichel isn't in that category at 18, but still, it's a first-round pick that you need them to pan out, because you went out on a limb to get some of those guys. Leiter wasn't much of a limb. He's a good player, of course, and coming out of college, he was dominant. Rocker was a little bit different with his injuries and whatnot, but you need Bichel to pan out. He needs to be in your top 4, at least by the end of this season or possibly next season on day 1. He needs to be within your top 4 and making a difference. But that could take some time. I understand that. I think this year is going to be sort of his Thomas Harley year, like we saw a couple of years back with Harley, where he was kind of up and down. Then he really figured himself out defensively, number 1 in the AHL. For Bichel, it's a little different. He just needs to be a bit more decisive with his puck play and making the smart decisions. And if he pans out, Stars will be in good shape. Mavrik Bourque comes in at number 4. His tier is projected to play NHL games. I think he could blow that out of the water. He's above NHL average in hockey sense and compete. His puck skills were graded out at NHL average along with skating. Had a huge year, of course, in the AHL, was the MVP, competes well enough, has shown over his career he can win pucks and PK. The issue for him in the NHL will be a lack of standout foot speed for a smaller player. He's elusive, but isn't fast. His pure talent will let him get into the league, but they do have some reservations about whether his feet will have him have a long career. He'll be interesting. I really like Bourque. I'm really excited to see a full year of him, because we've just got him in little spurts, but he's proven he's too good for the AHL. He's ready for the jump up, and he's going to play alongside some good players. And it looks like it could be Stankoven and Jamie Benn. Stankoven and Bourque could be your Sedin twins, sort of, where you just stick them together, pair whoever you want with them, and let him go. Coming at number 5, do not want to forget about Emil Hemming. 6'1", 205. Of course, he was drafted 29th overall in 2024 by the Stars. They do project him to play some NHL games. He's NHL average in anything besides his shot, which we have documented over the summer. He's got a really high-end shot. Very good player at the Finnish junior level for Finland's U18 team. Of course, he played in the highest Swedish elite league over in Sweden. And he'll have the opportunity to play in the OHL, which is a nice thing as well for the Stars. He's transitioning over to North America with the Barrie Colts, and a couple of Stars players or prospects are going to join in there, including Tristan Bertucci, who comes in at number 6 on this year's rankings, with the defender who was drafted 61st overall in 2023. He's projected to play some NHL games as well. Had another productive season, playing a ton of minutes for Flint in the OHL. Smart two-way defenseman. His offense comes from good outlets, making intelligent decisions with the puck and stopping rushes that turn up ice quickly. He defends well enough due to his brain and reach is competing fine. His skating is just okay. It's good enough for his size to be a potential third-pair defenseman in the NHL. So some good stuff there. They do give some honorable mentions to Christian Kyrou, who has a chance to play, Kyle McDonald, who we'll probably get a good look at in training camp and the preseason as well. I'm really happy, and maybe not happy, but happy to be able to watch preseason games on Victory Plus here in the next month or so to get a more bird's eye view, maybe a bit more clear eye on some of these prospects like Christian Kyrou and Bertucci, and of course, a ton of others within the Dallas Stars organization to get a feel on can they impact the Stars maybe this year or down the line, right? In a couple of seasons. The Stars are pretty packed right now when it comes to roster spots. Not going to be a ton of openings. So we'll look for players that could make an impact in a couple seasons for now. So some good stuff either way. Stars come in at number 18 in this NHL Pipeline Rankings. Johnston, Stankoven, Bichel, Bourque, Hemming, and Bertucci are your top 6 players, 22 years of age or younger. Sorry that went a bit longer than expected, but it's always fun to think about these young guys and already some guys that are making huge impacts at the NHL level like Stankoven and Wyatt Johnston. Going to be a fun season ahead. Stars are right in the thick of things. Okay, so the NHL Network has been floating out their lists over the summer, and tomorrow they will be releasing their top D-men in the NHL. Miro came in at number 3 last season, and of course, that came off a huge year. He dipped offensively, but he's still regarded as one of the better defensemen in the NHL. Does he stay put at 3? Does he move up? Or does he drop back? I'll tell you my prediction after this. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Also, Game Time is a 50% off Labor Day offer for the Diamondbacks Dodgers games if you're in that area, and they'll also have some Labor Day deals for certain events within your local region. So go ahead, go to Game Time, takes all the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the seat before you buy as well. So you don't have to worry about showing up, having a rail, having a bar in front of you. We've all been there before when going to a new arena. Use Game Time Picks and you can save money on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they have it. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and you can use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Hey, Stars fans, thank you so much for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. Go ahead and make your second listen the Locked On NHL podcast. It provides you with a national perspective on all things NHL. They have national experts along with local insights every single day. It's available wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. So Miro Heiskanen came in at number 3 last season on the NHL Network's list of top 20 defensemen. Makar was at number 1, Fox at number 2. You got Miro, Victor Hedman, Roman Josi at 5, then McAvoy, Dahlin, Carlson, Pietrangelo at number 9, and Quinn Hughes at number 10. He's obviously going to have a huge jump up after just winning the Norris Trophy. So I'll say this, and we'll begin with Makar and Hughes because I think they're going to come in at number 1 and 2 for this year's top defenseman in the NHL. I would take Makar 100 times over Quinn Hughes. I'll just throw that out there. I don't think that's a very controversial take, but Quinn Hughes did win the Norris Trophy. I think he's probably going to be the number 1. That would be fair based off rankings, but I wouldn't take Quinn Hughes over Cale Makar. Just want to throw that out there. Anyways, I could see definitely Makar coming in at number 2 behind Quinn Hughes because he had a huge year, 92 points, had an incredible season, and he deserved to win the Norris Trophy. Josi was at number 2. Makar came in at number 3 on the Norris Trophy voting. So I think it's going to go Hughes, Makar. I think Yosi's going to come in at number 3. He continues to do it. He continues to be really strong. And I think Miro's going to drop back to possibly number 4. But I do want to say this as well. After watching the postseason, and I want to get into this a bit more on Friday's episode because we're going to have the rankings and I want to just go over it and just touch on some of the numbers from Miro this past season. He played the second most minutes 5-on-5 in the postseason this past year. Miro Heiskanen did, and had to go up against some of the best players like McKinnon and Eichel, and was extremely, extremely good. Look, his offensive production is not going to get him into the elite level of the OC and the Makars, right? He was, let's see, Miro was 15th this year with 54 points. I could see that going up. He did miss about a month because of an injury, so I could see his numbers dipping. But if he wants to win a Norris number one, he's got to get within 80 points or so. You got to be about a point per game player. So I think Miro's going to come in at number 4 behind Hughes, Makar, Yossi. And then after Miro, I feel like you're going to get Adam Fox and then Bouchard as well. And then Victor Hedman will be in there. I think Bouchard did a lot for his game. If it's one player I gained a lot of respect for in the Western Conference fight, it was Bouchard. Didn't necessarily love him coming into that series, or thought he was all that in a bag of chips, so to speak. And he gained a lot of respect out of it. He had an incredible series, and he outplayed Miro hands down. But I will say, watching this postseason, I don't know how anybody would take Hughes over Makar or Heiskanen. Just want to put that out there. And Hughes had a good postseason, but just the eye test, man. I mean, give me Miro Makar any day of the week. Right now, I'm not saying Hughes isn't going to be that type of player. He's really, really good. I'm not trying to argue that. He's one of the best. He's a top 5 defenseman in the NHL. But I wouldn't take him over Miro or Makar at this point in the career, especially in the postseason. It was his first little taste. And look, there was a lot of things that were off with Vancouver. They had a ton of injuries, and I'm sure that played a factor, how many minutes he was playing and some of his struggles. But I think Miro comes in at number 4 this year. I think he drops, whether I think that's right or not, because I think he really is a top 3 defenseman. And I would probably put Makar and Hughes up there, and I have Miro. I don't see Fox being ahead of Miro this time, but look, Fox had another good year offensively, 73 points, but I'll say it again, I'm not taking him over Miro any day of the week. And then, of course, is some bias in that I get to see Miro every single day, but what he does in all 3 facets of the game. And 2, the Stars sort of shelter him, and I don't mean that from his weaknesses. He doesn't really have weaknesses, but they don't let him play as much as he could. They took him off the PK. He didn't play as many minutes there, and they were trying to take some of that load off his shoulders, even though I think if he had the option, he would play every single minute because he really is that good. So heads up, keep it heads up for that top 20 defenseman in the NHL. Some names that could have some huge leaps. I mean, Morrissey's at number 11. Devontae's at 13. Could see him sneak in there. I think Petrangelo's probably going to drop out. Montour's going to have a big jump too. He was at 19. I mean, he could squeeze into the top 10 as well. Just a lot of good defensemen around the league. So we'll see how it all shapes out. And we'll talk a bit more about that on Friday when we get the list. Okay. So this was always a possibility when it came to the Stars being the first team going to a direct to consumer streaming outlet. And another domino has fallen. Another NHL team has joined the Stars on Victory Plus. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment. So yes, the Stars are the pioneer in this whole thing, as they announced earlier this summer that they will be streaming all games next season on Victory Plus, which of course is a free direct-to-consumer streaming outlet. And a lot of people think, based off its name, it was created just for the Stars. But this is owned by APMC, which is another corporation that is not related to the Dallas Stars, by the way. I know Victory Plus seems like it was actually created by the Stars and made just for them. But no, it had the opportunity to be expanded. And another domino has fallen. The Anaheim Ducks have now joined Victory Plus. This was announced yesterday. So starting this season, fans can stream Anaheim Ducks games for free on the Victory Plus app. So how about that? Another team coming there. Every home, every screen at no cost. So that'll be pretty cool. The Ducks president said, "We are so pleased to announce that fans in our entire television market via stream or traditional television, cable, or over the air will see locally broadcast games free of charge." So how about that? Another domino has fallen. And with Bally, and the Rangers are not going to be with Bally next season. I think that's official, if I'm not mistaken. I know the Mavericks will not be with Bally. That is official now. So we'll see if the Mavs decide to join Victory Plus. I'm really, really intrigued to see where they go, because it's obviously a lot of revenue that you miss out. But if the more teams hop on board, maybe the Mavericks feel more comfortable knowing that the Stars are doing this and sort of setting the blueprint. They may want to wait a few years and wait for the results, so to speak, to see some numbers before they really hop on board. It'll be interesting, but Bally's been kind of a kerfluffle. I know Amazon pulled out their $15 million investment to kind of keep Bally around. Really, really weird stuff going on with some of these regional sports networks, but it looks like Bally is completely done now. We'll see if teams continue to go to this route. Like I said, I think this is incredible. It's great for the fans, number one. Maybe not great for the pocketbooks right away, but maybe in a few years down the line, it turns in huge dividends. So, just wanted to share that, because that means there's some good stuff going on with Victory Plus. If other teams are sort of joining it, and who knows, maybe we'll get some NBA teams and all that as well. So there we go. That'll wrap up today's episode of Locked On Stars on a Wednesday. I'll be moving to Corpus Christi at the end of this week. So I think by the time you see me next on a Friday, I'll be officially moved in. And I'll be all settled in and all that stuff. I still plan to put out an episode on a Friday here. So be on the lookout for that at the end of the week. As always, thank you so much for the love and support. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Never miss an episode. We're over 2,300 subscribers. Let's try to get to 2,500 before the start of the season. That'll be the goal. Let's try to get to 2,500 before, October 13th is the season opener against Nashville. That'll be our goal for the next couple of months. So big thanks to all of you out there that tune into Locked On Stars every single day. Always a pleasure to be with you. Alrighty, have a great week, a great rest of your week. I'll see you on Friday, and we'll kick things off into the Labor Day weekend for you. So long, Stars fans.